Hello there and welcome. So in this video we're going to look at some hazards recorded by Dashcam, either from a motorcycle or by a car. This hazard here is a good case in point. We can identify the pedestrian crossing and the LGV parked up on the pavement blocking the view to the left. Therefore we need to reduce our speed so that we can stop at the crossing if necessary. We can only resume our speed once we've seen that the crossing is in fact clear and we can proceed safely. It's no good maintaining our speed and at the last moment having to react because we're aware of some pedestrians. And you might wonder why there's so many car clips when we're on a motorcycle channel, but they're actually quite invaluable learning tools for newer and inexperienced riders, as a lot of these hazards are as relevant for you as a biker as they are as a car driver. None of these clips are shown in any way to embarrass or out car drivers who have done things wrong, but they're here as a learning curve so that hopefully people can be aware of what can happen and can take action to protect themselves and prevent things from going any worse. So in this clip we can just see the vehicle ahead of us. We're travelling on a dual carriageway. What we need to do is to look well ahead so we can see hazards early. Now as we come around this bend, notice there the vehicle waiting in the lay-by. As we approach, notice how that vehicle comes out of the lay-by and causes the vehicle in lane 1 to move into lane 2. That's a very careless entry onto a main carriageway there. If you're on your test you would have failed for such a manoeuvre. And if the vehicle in front wasn't paying close attention, very likely that could have resulted in a collision, either by going into the back of that vehicle that pulled out, or alternatively, if that vehicle had changed lane carelessly without checking his mirrors and blind spot, he could have collided with the vehicle in lane 2 and ended up in the central reservation. So early identification of these hazards is vital. This clip shows a rural road. It's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit with traffic calming measures. If we look towards the end of the road, we can see there are pedestrians and the road bends to the left, which at this point is blind. As we approach the hazard, we should be slowing down and being prepared to deal with what may happen. We're not sure exactly what the pedestrians will do. We're not sure how aware they are of the traffic. But with the left-hand bend, we also do not know what is going to come towards us because we have no cross views through the hedge to our left. So at this point we should be slowing and anticipating a problem. We can clearly see that the pedestrian does not have any pavement at all. And as we can see, that vehicle approached fairly quickly despite the 30 limit, and he's fairly close to the pedestrians. This vehicle here is braking quite firmly by the looks of it, and he's also fairly close to the pedestrians. Fortunately, the vehicle with the camera is relatively slow and allows for the oncoming vehicle to deal with the hazard. Pedestrians are vulnerable road users, so we should always be extra cautious, reduce our speeds, and when we're driving and we see these hazards, expect other road users not necessarily to deal with them correctly. So when it's dark, it's much harder obviously to see things, to see hazards. Excess speed at night is dangerous because you may come across a hazard very unexpectedly and not be able to deal with it. If you look further down the road now, can you see something that doesn't look quite right? Very difficult to tell with a bend at night and with wetness exactly what is happening. At this point you can see it's actually travelling towards us on the wrong side of the road. Had both vehicles or one vehicle been travelling at significantly higher speeds, there may not have been time to react and it could have resulted in a head-on collision. So the car is approaching a left-hand bend, restricted view, and as it comes round the bend there's a motorcycle. If we look at the position of that motorcycle, he's fairly central. This is a big disadvantage for the motorcycle because he's approaching a right-hand bend. A leftward position would have been more helpful. Also, with the junction there to his left, by positioning left he would have been seen earlier by traffic intending to turn right. It takes him a while to move back to the correct side of the road, and he seems quite intrigued as to why the car coming towards him is slowing. As you can see here, because the car had to brake for the motorcyclist's incorrect road positioning, the vehicle following had to brake fairly rapidly to avoid a collision because he didn't expect the car in front to have to brake. The motorcyclist doesn't help himself further because he's looking back at the car that had to slow for his road positioning as he passes a junction and brings himself out to the centre of the road. This puts a biker at a serious disadvantage because he's not aware of the next set of hazards that may befall him. This could have been a lot worse, and it started off just because of poor road positioning in the first instance. So, temporary traffic lights, two vehicles in front on the brakes, and that vehicle is just overtaken coming up behind. Considering a filter, making sure those lights don't change and the car doesn't pull out in front of me before I get there. Or do a U-turn, of course. So filtering is a great thing to do on a motorcycle, but always bear in mind that any vehicle in the queue could do exactly what this silver car has just done, and I've seen it on more than one occasion. That's why you should never be too fast and never too close to the vehicle that you are approaching, and be prepared to deal with such an incident and stop short if it does develop. So in this clip, the motorcycle is just negotiating a couple of roundabouts. It's always important that you scan all the roundabout and be aware of all the traffic going around you. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people who just look to the right and then they lose awareness of everything else that's going on. So as we approach, just have a quick look into the distance and be aware of the vehicle in the red circle. He's just joining the roundabout from another exit. And there he is. And do we expect him to take that exit off by the van? And you'll see there, he's got no indicator, he's come straight around the roundabout. This is why approaching a roundabout at a reasonable speed and being prepared to deal with what might happen is always in your advantage. Had we have come up to there too quickly, we'd have had to brake very hard or been in a very serious situation. So in this final clip, just approaching a queue of traffic, and we're aware that there are some roadworks and temporary traffic signals ahead, which of course require compliance with the law. A red light is a red light whether it's permanent or temporary. So the vehicles are moving through on the green light, but we always need to be prepared to stop if the lights change. And so the vehicle in front of us is just about to go through on the green, and then the lights change back to amber, as you can see through the screen, and the vehicle quite appropriately decides to stop. However, the taxi behind decides to overtake both two vehicles in the front and contravene a red traffic light. You've always got to be aware of people like this. If they'll do one thing that's wrong and illegal, they'll do something else. As a motorcyclist, always stay completely away from people like this. So thank you for watching this series of clips. I hope there's something there that may keep you out of trouble in the future when you're riding practically out on the road. Until next time, ride safe and take care.